being a dad, being a business owner, and now being a candidate for Congress? How do you plan on balancing all this out?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on priorities. I took time today to get into my Bible and read it. I went and got my little girl's donuts this morning, making time for what's important to me. And if that means that my campaign suffers a little bit, or that I don't get back to every email, or even at the end of the day, if I don't win this race, that's okay. That's okay, because at the end of my life, when I look back, I want to say that my priorities were in check and in order. I hope I've raised little kids, little girls who are going to understand that sometimes when you go big and you're trying to help a lot of people, that sometimes means that the family has to sacrifice along with dad and mom. Keeping open lines of communications with my kids as we talk about, hey, this is why daddy's doing this, trying to spend that quality time with them when I can. That's how I'm going to try to manage this.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. I have got a phenomenal guest returning to the podcast today, former Navy SEAL, successful entrepreneur, and now Congressional Candidate in the state of Arizona. Eli Crane joins me on the podcast. Eli has done 5 deployments. He's a combat veteran, a true American hero. He and his wife Jen launched a business called Bottle Breacher. You may recall seeing them on Shark Tank, where they scored a deal. It has turned into a multi-million-dollar business. It's a big honor for me to have him back on the show. So get down there, smack that subscribe button, tap the like, and let's jump into it right now with Eli Crane on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, a first-class father, Eli Crane. Welcome back to First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's been a while, about 3 years since I spoke to you last time. You got any more kids that you added to the family here? How many kids do you have? How old are they?
So no more kids. Praise the Lord, man. We still have the 2. We're at 14 and 10. So we got good ages, and both daughters, and it's a challenge, but it's a blessing at the same time, and Jen and I are up to it.
Yeah, wow, very cool. If you could, Eli, please just take a minute here to hit my listeners a little bit about your background and what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm a former Navy SEAL. Started a small business called Bottle Breacher. Some of your listeners might have seen us on Shark Tank back in 2014, and now we happen to be. We just announced our run for U.S. Congress here in Arizona, and we just keep keep going big. Don't rest on what you did yesterday, and we're trying to serve the people in Arizona and the people of this country. And so, we're excited, and we're definitely busy.
Yeah, awesome. And congratulations on running here. I'm glad that you decided to do it. And you mentioned your Bottle Breacher, still one of my prized possessions that I got here is my first-class fatherhood breacher. So, listen, I know it had to be a difficult decision, Eli, but what made you finally jump over the hump here and throw your hat in the political arena?
Yeah, I think that as we talk about, fatherhood, a big part of fatherhood is always protection, and being willing to be selfless and sacrifice yourself for something greater than something bigger than you. And oftentimes that's family, but sometimes it goes even bigger. Sometimes it's your community, sometimes it's your state, and in this case, it's national. And I've been blessed. I've learned a lot over the years. I've dealt with a lot of adversity, and I've really grown as a man, and I'm willing to take on more, and I feel like this is a calling for me. I'm a man of faith. I feel like this is where God wants me, and that sometimes that means that you got to get out of the boat, and get out of your comfort zone, and go big, and that's what we're doing. And we just honestly, at the end of the day, Alec, I want to make sure that my kids, your kids, and all the kids of all the dads that you've had on this show get to grow up with the freedom and prosperity that you and I did. And it's unacceptable to me as I see, freedoms being taken away, and our government getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was never intended to be that way. And so, I can keep complaining about it, or I can do something about it. And that's what I've chosen to do.
Well said. And obviously, I'm happy to see so many non-political guys finally get involved in politics, because we're going to need the voice. I know Sean Parnell, I've had him on the podcast several times. We see Morgan Luttrell's now running. Derek Van Orden has been doing it. I know some of the SEALs, are getting involved in this, and I think we really need to have more representation and the leadership from you guys. What do you think it is about the Navy SEALs? Like I just mentioned a few of them. We know Dan Crenshaw is obviously in there. What do you think it is about the Navy SEALs that makes you guys well equipped to lead from the floor, from the House, from Congress, from the Senate?
Well, I think once you go through a training pipeline like SEAL training, it really resets your baseline for what you believe is possible. It resets your baseline for what you think you can complete, but it also resets your baseline for what you're willing to take on, how much pain you're willing to take on. And I don't underestimate this process. I know it's going to be brutal. I know it's going to be a lot of hard work. I know I'm going to be drugged through the mud. And everything that goes with this nasty world of politics. But that sacrifice piece, that's important to me. I have a lot of brothers that never came home, and they fought for everybody here. They didn't fight for, one color of people from this neighborhood or that state. They fought for everybody here, and and that's something that's important to me. Preserving that legacy. And Ronald Reagan said a long time, Alec, he said that freedom is always one generation away from extinction. And I 100% believe that. I believe that a lot of us have been complacent. There's a lot of dads out there that probably listen to your show and they're concerned about, hey, where's my kid going to go to college, right? And that's great because we all want our kids to go to a good college so that they can learn and, carry on with their lives. But I think oftentimes we've had it so good for so long in this country that most of us we take it for granted as if there's no way that this country could ever collapse. And I don't believe that. I believe that no matter how great or structured or foundational, an organization or country or nation was at one point, if it's not maintained, and if it starts to bear too much weight of corruption and evil, even the greatest country of all time can and will collapse. And that's why I want to get into this fight, and I want to try to be a part of making the change I want to see.
Yeah, great stuff, Eli. And just like you said there, if we even look to Rome, at the beginning of the fall of Rome was the breakdown of the nuclear family units. And right now, the family units are under attack in this country. We got a fatherless crisis going on big time. So many kids are growing up without that father figure in their life. And it's having a devastating result on our society. So, I mean, I know you're a family man first. How do we do this? How do we kind of fix this, Eli, from either a political standpoint or just from a nation standpoint? How do we kind of start to heal, start to strengthen, and start to get our family units back strong in this country again?
Well, yeah, thanks for bringing it up. And I never shy away from, a hard truth. And I know that not everybody believes in what I believe in. And I know that everybody's not on the same page as I am. But this country has Judeo-Christian values. And I think that as an individual or a nation, anytime you start to turn away from God, it's only a matter of time before it winds up in the same place. And that's, destruction. And so I love people. I want Americans to have the ability to believe whatever they want to believe. I never want to force my faith on anybody. And our Constitution guarantees religious freedom and freedom of speech. So, but I will tell you, I will tell you that because I think it's vital that we return to the foundation of this country and just the values, the morals, our Bill of Rights, and our Constitution. If we want this country to last and provide prosperity and freedom for our children.
Yeah, really well said, Ian. This is why I love speaking to guys just like you that are doing this, because you don't have these ready-made political answers that just right down the line. You're speaking from the heart, and that's what I really love. Now, you have two young girls here growing up. What would you consider to be the top values that you're hoping to instill in your girls as they become young adults?
Right. I think, well, again, faith, the fact that this story is not about you. I think that we live in a society where we've invented the selfie, right? And it's all about, everything's about us, everything's about pleasure, everything's about comfort. And I think that that's a big part of the decay in our culture and society. So I want my daughters not only to understand that this story isn't about them, but I want them to understand that it is better to give than receive. And I want them to use the tools, the talents, the skills, and the abilities that God's given them to bless other people and to encourage other people, and honestly, to fight against evil. That's something I talk about a lot, brother. I mean, I know we don't like to talk about it. We like to pretend like it doesn't exist, but some of the things I see going on in this culture, especially when I look at like the United States of America is the number one consumer of child sex trafficking. To me, that is straight evil. And, I want my daughters to not only understand evil, but I want them to be able to identify it and be willing to fight against it. And so those are, and I also want them to understand accountability and ownership, because that was something I had a hard time with, Alex, as a young man, taking ownership and accountability when I screwed something up and trying to deflect or pass blame or, on somebody else because I didn't want to own it. And I learned that the hard way. And so that's another thing I think is really hard. And I know a lot of adults that haven't figured that one out yet. And so teaching my daughters accountability, ownership, hey, if you screw something up, it's on you, and take ownership of it and say, hey, that's on me. I should have done a better job. Before you start pointing the finger at other people. So those are a couple of the things that we talk about in the Crane House.
Yeah, it's something I try to do too, Eli, with my kids, is try to, it's something that my father, I could never imagine him apologizing to me for anything, but it's something that I've made a point to try to do, especially with my older teenagers, to say, hey, especially when I punish the wrong kid for the wrong thing, to say, hey, I got that one wrong. But you mentioned there too, the child sex trafficking. It's hard. I have my youngest is my only girl. She's 6 years old. It's so hard for me to think that this is such an epidemic that's going on in our world and in our country, and we're just walking around as if nothing's going on here. It's earth shattering. And the problem we're having at the border here with so many other kids now coming in with no parents, no fathers, no nothing, and they're getting right into this. Yep. You're out there. What do we do here? I mean, what's your stance on this whole thing that's going on down on the border, and how it's affecting these young kids that are coming in here? The parents are just shipping them across the border.
Right, and that's one of the reasons I'm running for Congress here in Arizona, because we are a border state. Even though this is a nationwide issue, this doesn't stop at the border. But Arizona's getting hit really hard with it. And, it honestly, it breaks my heart. I'm a compassionate man. I'm a generous man. I don't blame people at all for wanting to come to the United States of America and try and get a slice of the American dream. I have a lot of friends, who have come here and done very well for themselves. And it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. However, every country should have the ability to be sovereign, and that means to have borders and to vet who comes in and who doesn't. And so I think that we need to roll up the red carpet that's been laid out by this current administration. I think that we need to take it seriously. It takes leadership. You can't. You've had a president and a vice president that took the vice president months and months and months to get down to the border. And some would argue the only reason she did that was because Donald Trump was going to go to the border. And this isn't a political thing, because it affects, people of all walks of life in all neighborhoods. And a country's number one, responsibility to its people is to protect its people. And the people down here are not being protected. And the little kids that are getting trafficked over the border, they're not being protected. And at the same time, the drug cartels across on the southern border, they are getting rich because and I've talked to congressmen, I've listened to border patrol agents and others who say that every vehicle that comes across that border, every person that comes across that border, every bag of dope that comes across that border, the cartel gets a cut in all of it. And so we're bolstering the cartel. We're supporting the trafficking of little kids, and we're making these communities down here, we're overwhelming them, and we're making their neighborhoods a lot more dangerous. And it's awful to see.
Well, and thank God for people like you getting involved. I think it may be Plato that said, like, the penalty for not getting involved in these political issues is to be ruled by evil men. So it's just, I'm glad to see that or we have people that are willing to take this fight. Now, for you, I know this is going to take, obviously, you mentioned it, it's going to take a toll. There's a sacrifice involved in this. How do you plan on balancing being a dad, being a business owner, and now being a candidate for Congress? How do you plan on balancing all this out?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on priorities. I took time today to get into my Bible and read it. I went and got my little girl's donuts this morning. I just launched my campaign this week, and I'm gonna get to go to dinner with my daughter for her birthday this evening, and it's just like making time for what's important to me. And if that means that my campaign suffers a little bit, or that I don't get back to every email, or even at the end of the day, if I don't win this race, that's okay. That's okay, because at the end of my life, when I look back, I want to say that my priorities were in check and in order. And now if dad is doing something like running for Congress, I hope I've raised little kids, little girls who are going to understand that sometimes when you go big and you're trying to help a lot of people, that sometimes means that the family has to sacrifice along with dad and mom. But that I think keeping my priorities straight and just understanding that there are bigger things in life than sometimes the goals that I set out to accomplish. And being keeping open lines of communications with my kids as we talk about, hey, this is why daddy's doing this, and trying to spend that quality time with them when I can. That's how I'm going to try to manage this.
Yeah, awesome, Eli. And as I mentioned here, my youngest is my only girl, so I'm curious to hear you. One of the things I struggle with is my discipline with her, because I discipline her differently than I do my three boys. So what type of disciplinarian are you as a dad, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
Yeah, sometimes I tell my wife, sometimes I wish I had little boys, because I'd thump them and be like, hey, knock it off. I feel like sometimes I feel like Dr. Phil around my house walking. Okay, how am I gonna talk to my daughters about this? How am I gonna lower my emotional level and try and really connect on an emotional level, and still discipline and get the point across that this behavior is not okay and this isn't how we conduct ourselves. And so I think it's one of the reasons God gave me little girls, because I needed to be softened up a little bit. And so I don't always get it right, but just trying to love on them and show them that you know that dad can be serious and stern, but he can be loving. And at the end of the day, what he really cares about is teaching you how to become a loving, respectful, productive member of society, who reflects, you know, the, you know, the values that we have here.
Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of you guys on the podcast. I know they call it like the Frogman curse. So many of you have girls, but I think it's really a Frogman blessing. I love having a girl myself. So what's next for you here, Eli? What's the campaign look like for you? You got everything all set up? You still putting it together? How's the campaign trail shaping up here?
No, it's really good. We launched on Tuesday. We did a ton of media this week. Fox News, Newsmax, Washington Examiner, Breitbart. I did Sean Hannity last night. I did Maria Bartiromo this morning. Mark Levin. Mark Levin actually endorsed me on air on Tuesday night. That was one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Wow.
But it's just we're gonna stay after it. We're going to keep pounding it. And, at the end of the day, this is about we the people. If I can't convince the people of Arizona Congressional District 1 that I'm going to, I'm not your typical politician, and that I will actually fight for you, even if that means, getting raked over the coals and pissing off some powerful people, then I don't deserve the position. And so, like I said, we're gonna fight like hell. And at the end of the day, if this is what God has for me, then I'm confident that He'll put me right where I need to be. And so, thank you, Alex, for letting me come on. And if any of your viewers want to go learn more about our campaign, it's they just go to EliForArizona.com.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the link in the description of this podcast episode so they can get over there and check it out. And God bless you, brother, for what you're doing. I'm pulling for you, not as a politician, but because of the person you are. And I think the leadership you bring is really what we need more of in this country. So best of luck to you on this. Last thing I want to hit you with here, Eli, I always love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what kind of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Yeah. So for me, my advice would be this goes in phases. And to me, it just gets better. I feel like I'm better with older kids. I think, because they can actually communicate to me. I know what's going on, what's wrong. When they're babies, it's like just you're constantly guessing. All right, is it gas? Is it they want to go for a ride? Are they hungry? That's hard for me because I can't solve the problem. But it all goes in phases. It's just like everything else in life. And one of the coolest things about having kids is that it makes you if you're going to be a good dad, it forces you to become more selfless and less selfish. And that is even though we all resist it because we're all selfish, I think by nature, man, it just makes you a better person because you're caring less and less about yourself and you're caring more and more about them. And so there's a process here. Be patient, give yourself grace. You're going to screw up. You're going to lose your temper. You're going to make bad calls. But the cool thing is little kids are so forgiving, but man, protect them because they deserve it. They deserve our protection and our love.
Very well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. Eli Crane, you're a first-class father all the way, and thanks for coming back here on First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you, brother. God bless you guys. Thank you.